Lori Vallow Daybell, often called the Doomsday Mom, has become infamous for her alleged role in a chilling case that shocked the nation. She stands accused of murdering her children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow, who disappeared in September 2019, reportedly because she believed they were possessed by evil spirits. Back in 2006, Lori and her then-husband Charles Vallow seemed to have the perfect life. After marrying the successful businessman, Lori appeared to be in a happy marriage, raising her daughter Tylee Ryan from a previous relationship. But beneath that image of domestic bliss, Lori's past was far more complicated and troubling. Born Lori Noreen Cox on June 26, 1973, in San Bernardino, California, she would go on to have a string of marriages before her life spiraled into chaos. At 19, she married her high school sweetheart, Nelson Yanes, but the union ended shortly after. At 22, she wed William LaJoya in Travis County, Texas, on October 22, 1995, and welcomed a son, Colby, the following year. Their marriage ended in divorce in 1998. In 2001, Lori married Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr., who adopted Colby, and the couple had a daughter, Tylee, in 2002. However, the relationship soon soured. Ryan filed for divorce in 2004, and it was finalized in 2005. From that point forward, Lori's life began to take a dark and unsettling turn. In 2007, Ryan was attacked by Lori's brother, Alexander Lamar Alex Cox, who claimed Ryan had been abusive to Lori and the children. Cox tasered Ryan and threatened to murder him. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 90 days in jail, which he served in Austin, Texas. But that didn't stop Lori from playing the same trick again of using her brother to get rid of an inconvenient husband. On February 24, 2006, Lori married Leland Anthony Vallow, commonly known as Charles Vallow, in Las Vegas, Nevada. Vallow, a lifelong Catholic, became a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, converting to his new wife's faith. Vallow had 2 sons from a previous marriage, Nicholas and Zachary Chase. In 2013, Lori and Charles Vallow adopted J.J. Vallow. He was the grandson of Charles's sister. J.J. had autism, and April Raymond, who was Lori's friend, says Lori was a patient and ideal mother for him. Veja Edidhow met the Vallow family when they lived in Arizona. She says Tylee embraced her role as a big sister and that Tylee even jokingly referred to JJ as her own child. Sometime around 2017, relatives say Lori's relationship with her children changed. Her friends say she had been reading the books of doomsday author Chad Daybell. Daybell, who wrote several fiction books about preparing for the end of the world, lived outside Rexburg, Idaho. In 2018, Lori Vallow met Chad Daybell. Lori's friends say there was a connection between the two and they began doing religious podcasts together. Daybell was also married. Together with his wife Tammy Daybell, he was raising 5 children. But what kind of man was Chad Daybell really? Chad Guy Daybell was born on August 11, 1968 in Provo, Utah. He married Tamara Tammy Douglas in Manti, Utah on March 9, 1990. He graduated from Brigham Young University in 1992 with a BA in journalism and worked as a cemetery sexton or gravedigger, among other jobs. In 2004, Chad founded Spring Creek Book Company, which he used to self-publish his end times fiction and other religious books. His partner in this venture was a man identified in the media only by the name Douglas, a graphic artist and manager. Chad and Tammy's 5 children were named Garth, Emma, Seth, Leah, and Mark. In 2005, Chad claimed he heard a voice telling him to relocate to Rexburg, Idaho. He and Tammy moved there from Springville, Utah that June. Around 2015, Lori read Chad Daybell's Standing in Holy Places series of books, reportedly becoming obsessed with them. In 2016, the Vallow family moved back to Arizona. In the fall of 2018, Lori and her friend Melanie Gibb attended a Preparing a People event, where Lori was introduced to Chad for the first time. According to Gibb, by the end of the weekend, Chad told Lori the two had been married in 7 previous lifetimes. The two soon began communicating privately. Several weeks after their initial meeting, Lori's husband left town on a business trip and Lori held an intimate overnight gathering at her home. In attendance were both Gibb and Chad, who was speaking at another conference in Mesa, Arizona. Gibb later recalled Chad lavishing attention on Lori and expounding upon his unusual religious beliefs and the deeper mysteries of God with a small group of the overnight guests. According to Gibb, Chad stated he had lived 31 different lives on various Earth-like planets. He referred to others as light or dark and various gradations in between. Chad believed the dark individuals were from this earth but were followers of Satan. Those who were light were followers of Jesus Christ. Chad Daybell referred to Lori as an eternal being of 21 separate lives, only 5 of which had occurred on this planet. The same 5 he had lived on this planet. Lori was both thrilled and attracted to this belief system and became increasingly fixated on this newfound purpose and on Chad. On December 5, 2018, Chad and Lori appeared together on the Preparing the People podcast episode, Time to Warrior Up. Chad later stayed at the Vallow residence in Arizona. By February 2019, according to Charles Vallow, Lori was informing him that she no longer cared about him or JJ and claimed that she was the reincarnated wife of LDS founder Joseph Smith, then vanished for 58 days. Lori's friend Melanie Gibb would later say she heard Chad and Lori talking about zombies, people whose souls were replaced by dark spirits. Lori's former friend April Raymond told 48 Hours that Lori started referring to her husband, Charles Vallow, as a demon. In 2019, Charles Vallow became very worried about Lori. He went to the police with his concerns. He told them Lori believed she was a god preparing for the end of days. Charles also said Lori had threatened to murder him. On January 31, 2019, Charles Vallow was seen on police body cam video telling officers his wife had become unhinged. The same month, Charles filed for divorce, stating that his wife had threatened to murder him, taken $35,000 from their joint bank accounts and stolen his truck. He filed for an order of protection against Lori at the advice of his attorney, citing a genuine fear for his life. In July 2019, Charles Vallow went to the house where Lori Vallow was living with the children in Chandler, Arizona. Charles was supposed to drop their son, JJ, off at school, but when he went inside the home, Charles was shot dead by Lori's brother Alex Cox. Cox told police that Lori and Charles got into a fight. Alex claimed he was protecting his sister and shot Charles in self-defense. Lori and Tylee, who both say they heard the shooting, told similar stories of self-defense. After Charles's death, his attorney stated he had been primarily concerned for JJ's safety and well-being as he needed a constant routine due to his special needs. Charles had also been concerned for Tylee, but he was unable to include her in the filings as she was not his biological daughter and thus he had no legal standing. He withdrew the petition 1 month later, saying he wanted to try to make the marriage work. Unfortunately, it ended up getting him killed instead. Around September 2019, Lori Vallow moved closer to Chad Daybell. She relocated her kids to Rexburg, Idaho. Lori's brother, Alex Cox, moved into the same apartment complex. JJ Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and their uncle Alex Cox were at Yellowstone National Park on September 8, 2019. Police say this is the last known photo of Tylee before she disappeared. Now we know that Melanie Gibb has said by this point that Lori had referred to Tylee as a zombie. The morning after Tylee Ryan disappeared, investigators say that Alex Cox's cell phone GPS placed him in Chad Daybell's backyard on the property for about 2 hours. About 14 minutes after Cox's GPS showed him leaving the property, Chad Daybell texted his wife, Tammy Daybell. The text read, "Spotted a big raccoon along the fence. I hurried and got my gun and he was still walking along. I got close enough that one shot did the trick. He is now in our pet cemetery." There is a photo of JJ wearing red pajamas taken on September 22, 2019 in what is believed to be the last known photo of the 7-year-old. The police have also confirmed this. Melanie Gibbs says that she and her boyfriend, David Warnick, were staying with Lori in Rexburg that weekend. On the night of September 22, 2019, Warnick says he saw Alex Cox carry JJ into Lori's apartment. But the next morning, according to Warnick, when he asked to see JJ, Lori reportedly told them that JJ was being a zombie and that Cox had to take him away. On September 23, 2019, the day after JJ was last seen, investigators say Alex Cox's cell phone showed that Cox returned to Chad Daybell's backyard. This time, Cox was only there for 17 minutes. On September 24, 2019, Lori contacted the school to let them know that she was withdrawing JJ from classes, claiming she would be homeschooling him. On October 9, 2019, Tammy reported on her Facebook profile and to police that she had been shot at in her driveway by a masked man with what she believed was a defective paintball marker. The county sheriff's office did not find the perpetrator. 10 days later, Tammy was found dead in her home, purportedly of natural causes. Chad claimed that she had retired the night before with a terrible cough and died in her sleep. The couple's Garth Daybell said Tammy died in bed, and that he and Chad called 911. The Daybell children declined an autopsy. They say the coroner told them Tammy's death appeared to be from natural causes. They believe that because they said their mom was in ill health prior to her death. So basically, Lori, Chad, and Alex managed to fool both sets of families into thinking that these simultaneous disappearances and deaths around the same time were all just a huge coincidence. But then the real motive emerged. Roughly 2 weeks later, on November 5, 2019, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell got married on a beach in Hawaii. There they told others that Tylee had died in 2017 and or that Lori had no minor children. Later that month, JJ's grandmother, Kay Woodcock, asked the police to check on JJ's welfare. Woodcock said she was concerned and hadn't heard from JJ in months. On November 26, 2019, Rexburg police went to Lori's house looking for JJ. Police say Lori lied to them, claiming that JJ was safe and staying in Arizona with her friend, Melanie Gibb. At first, Gibb wasn't forthcoming about JJ's whereabouts, but later called the police and told them JJ hadn't been with her. While Rexburg police attempted to locate JJ, investigators soon realized that his sister, Tylee Ryan, was also missing and launched a nationwide search for the children. Colby and JJ's grandparents pleaded with the Daybells to return the children, with the latter offering a reward of $20,000, equivalent to $20,941 in 2021. Investigators contended that Joshua and Tylee's lives are in danger. The children are not with Chad and Lori. Lori knows where they are or what has happened to them, but she has completely refused to assist this investigation, choosing instead to leave the state with her new husband. While investigators searched for the missing children, Lori traveled back to Hawaii with her fifth husband in a series, Chad Daybell. Through their lawyer, the Daybells stated that Chad Daybell was a loving husband and he has the support of his children in this matter. Lori Daybell is a devoted mother and she resents assertions to the contrary. We look forward to addressing the allegations once they have moved beyond speculation and rumor. In December 2019, Fremont County Sheriff's investigators grew suspicious about Tammy Daybell's death. They exhumed her body to conduct an autopsy. The same month, Lori's brother Alex Cox died in Arizona. It was determined he died of natural causes. Cox, who had changed his surname to Pastiness, the surname of his wife, died on December 12, 2019. His death was attributed to blood clots and high blood pressure. On January 25, 2020, authorities served Lori Valadette Bell with an order requiring her to produce her children. After failing to comply, she was arrested in Hawaii on February 20, 2020. 2 weeks later, she was extradited to Idaho. In an interview with KSL, Annie Cushing, who is Tylee's late father's sister, said Lori had become obsessed with the end of the world and often talked about driving off the edge of a cliff with the children. Even after Lori's arrest, the couple refused to say where the children were. On June 9, 2020, the FBI, Rexburg Police, and Fremont County Sheriff's Office descended upon Chad Daybell's home and property. Authorities dug in areas of the backyard where Alex Cox's cell phone had pinged in September 2019. Tragically, they uncovered human remains buried in shallow graves. JJ Vallow had been buried under a tree about 50 yards away. Investigators found Tylee's grave in the Daybells' pet cemetery. Prosecutors believe she was buried in the same location Chad Daybell referenced when he texted Tammy Daybell 9 months earlier, saying he was burying a raccoon. Investigators dug up part of the pet cemetery and found no raccoon, but Daybell's family said that there was a second pet cemetery on the property that was not searched. Chad Daybell was arrested. Authorities later confirmed that they identified the remains as JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. A memorial was built along the Daybells' fence to honor the victims in June 2020. In May 2021, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Daybell were charged with first-degree murder for the deaths of JJ and Tylee. Daybell was also charged with murdering his first wife, Tammy Daybell. In June 2021, Chad Daybell pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. Also in June 2021, Lori Vallow Daybell was charged with conspiring to murder Charles Vallow. That same month, a judge ruled Lori incompetent to stand trial while she received mental health treatment. She had not yet entered a plea. Her case was on hold. In August 2021, prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty against Chad Daybell. Daybell was jailed awaiting trial. In September 2021, Chad and Tammy's children, speaking publicly for the first time together, told 48 Hours they believe their father is innocent. Daybell's daughter, Emma Murray, said she believes Chad was framed by Alex Cox and Lori Vallow Daybell. On April 11, 2022, Judge Stephen Boyce ruled that Lori Vallow Daybell was now mentally competent to stand trial in the Idaho murder case. He did not provide other details about her treatment or mental condition. She was scheduled to be formally arraigned in court next week. Both Lori and Chad Daybell were set to stand trial together early next year. On April 19, 2022, Lori refused to enter a plea to murder and other charges, prompting Judge Stephen Boyce to enter a not guilty plea on her behalf. Lori and Chad were both at the courthouse in the eastern Idaho town of St. Anthony for court proceedings. Lori Daybell for an arraignment that was delayed for months, while she underwent treatment at a mental health facility, and Chad Daybell for a hearing over the trial venue. Lori Vallow Daybell would qualify for capital punishment if she is convicted at her trial because the slayings were exceptionally depraved and carried out for financial gain, according to court documents filed by prosecuting attorneys from Fremont and Madison counties on May 2, 2022. On May 25, 2021, Chad and Lori were indicted on charges of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception for the deaths of Tylee and JJ and Tammy. The trial has since been postponed until early 2023 in the hope that Lori is able to be deemed mentally competent by that time. There are a number of odd details and inconsistencies about Lori's story that failed to add up and finally led to her arrest. Despite her insanity plea, the more you find out about her behavior throughout, the more you'll realize that this was a woman who was fully in control of her actions, fully aware that she was committing a series of terrible crimes and fully capable of constructing a cover-up to get away with it. For example, when in November 2019, police questioned her about the children's whereabouts and welfare, Lori and her new husband Chad Daybell claimed that JJ was staying with family friend Melanie Gibb in Arizona, where they had lived before moving to Idaho in early September 2019. But when police reached Gibb by phone, she told police that Joshua was not with her and had not been there for several months. More than a week later, Gibb called the police, saying that both Lori and Chad had asked her to lie to the police about JJ's whereabouts. But she refused. Police efforts to locate JJ led to the discovery that Tylee was also missing. And obviously, complicating the circumstances around the disappearances was a string of suspicious deaths. Not only was Lori's estranged husband, Charles Vallow, shot and killed by her brother Alex Cox, who claimed self-defense, but that same brother just so happened to die of a blood clot later on. How convenient for Lori that Alex didn't live long enough to explain to a jury why he had this habit of violently attacking his sister's husbands. Another factor contributing to the mystery was Chad and Lori's well-documented obsession with certain apocalyptic beliefs, which Chad had discussed in numerous books and podcasts. Melanie Boudreau, Lori's niece, reportedly shares these beliefs. Add to this that in early October 2019, Brandon Boudreau, the then estranged husband of Lori's niece, Melanie, was shot at in the driveway of his Gilbert, Arizona home from a vehicle still registered to the deceased Charles Vallow. Can this possibly be an unrelated coincidence? And then of course, in October 2019, Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell, was attacked in her driveway by what she believed was someone shooting a defective paintball gun. A few weeks later, on October 19th, she died in her sleep from what was initially recorded as natural causes. No post-mortem or autopsy was initially performed. It has also been reported that a wedding ring was purchased on Amazon from the deceased Charles's account for $35.99 on October 2, 2019. 17 days before the death of Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell. And finally, in a stunning blow to the insanity plea mounted by the defense lawyers, authorities confirmed that they had soon turned their attention to a Rexburg storage locker rented by Lori in October 2019. Inside, they discovered items belonging to or associated with Tylee and JJ, such as clothing, bikes, and photographs, all of which had been abandoned when Lori suddenly left Rexburg at the end of November 2019. There was even video footage which shows her and her brother Alex Cox moving items in and out of the locker prior to her departure. All of this to be explained away by the defendant Lori Vallow on the grounds of her religious beliefs? Hardly. On March 24, 2020, NBC News reported on documents showing that Chad and Lori became convinced that Tylee and JJ were possessed and had become zombies. But was that really the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Bear in mind that there is also a financial motive here. Because later on, Lori was also charged with grand theft related to Social Security survivor benefits over $1,000 allocated for the care of minors Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow that were appropriated after the children were missing and ultimately found deceased. And Chad, he was charged with insurance fraud related to a life insurance policy he had on Tammy Daybell, for which he was the beneficiary and received funds after her death. Unfortunately for themselves, this perfectly matched killer couple forgot that getting rid of their respective spouses and children wouldn't be enough for them to collect some extra cash and live happily ever after. Lori's 2 children had grandparents who loved them, and Chad's wife had children who loved her. Between them, these other family members finally found a way to avenge the death of their loved ones, and Lori and Chad are headed to maximum security prisons and will be separated from each other for the rest of their lives. So much for true love for these truly heinous killers. So, what do you guys think about this insanely twisted and evil pair of killers? This story is still developing, of course. So as new and even creepier details emerge almost weekly, we won't get a full picture of the case until Lori and Chad face a full jury.